Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, Accidental Beauty. If you're new, welcome. My name's Laura. I'm a self-taught makeup enthusiast. I mainly post makeup related content, but occasionally I branch out into other areas of beauty. And I should note that about 85 to 90% of the products that I use on my channel are cruelty-free and vegan. So if that's something you're interested in, then I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel. That would mean a lot. Today I am doing something a little different than what I normally do. I'm going to be discussing a trend that isn't new at all. It's something that happens very commonly in the makeup industry, and that is private labeling. I will be explaining in the video what private labeling is if you're not familiar. It's commonly known that the brand Morphe, at least in the past, used private labeling. Unclear if they do it now. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm just going to be discussing a trend related to private labeling that I've been seeing a lot of companies do. So if you want to hear my thoughts, my opinions, my discussion about all of that, then please keep on watching. I don't have a degree in business. I don't have a degree in marketing. I have a diploma in graphic design and I specialized in branding. So I do understand, I guess, the business side of design a little bit just because it came up in my classes. So I do understand things that you should consider when you're launching your brand. So that's my area of expertise. Also, I read a lot. I'm a critical thinker and I do a lot of research on just kind of the world of cosmetics in general. So I think I'm fairly knowledgeable and fairly qualified when it comes to talking about this. So just a little background on private labeling. I'm gonna link Stephanie Nicole's video over here and I'll also link it in the description box. I can't remember, I don't wanna misquote her, but I know she used to work in the beauty industry. I think she worked more in nail polish than makeup, but she's very, very knowledgeable about the formulation of makeup and cosmetics. And she did a video where she discusses private labeling in extensive detail. So I'll just link that for you to watch if you want to know more about it. Hey, Editing Laura here. I should really get my videos edited and uploaded much sooner. Amy Loves Makeup actually also tackled this topic recently on her channel, and I highly encourage you to check out her video. Her video is less about the specific issue that I'm about to address in my video and more just about private labeling as a whole in the makeup industry, but I still very much encourage you to check out her video because I think it's very informative, especially if you aren't so familiar with this aspect of the makeup industry. And back to our regularly scheduled programming. Essentially, there are two ways, as far as I know, there are two ways that you can make your own makeup. You can either work with a lab and develop your own custom formula, your own custom colors, and that is completely your own original thing. Hey, Editing Laura here, back again. I actually recently started a job in the cosmetics industry, and yeah, this is basically how it works. Or what some cosmetics manufacturers do is they have their 1 or 2 or 10 different formulas for, let's say, eyeshadow or lipstick or whatever, and makeup owners or people who want to start their own makeup brand will approach these manufacturers or developers and say, hey, we see that you manufacture cosmetics. Can we use your formula and your palette and your whatever, either your formula and we'll make our own palettes, or can we just use your pre-made palettes and just put our name on it and go from there. So that is actually fairly commonly done. You don't see a lot of the big name brands doing that because, well, A, they have the money to develop their own formulas, but B, I would think that a makeup brand wants to set themselves apart from their competition, so they don't want to be using the same formula. Okay, let's say, for example, let's use names. So let's say Anastasia Beverly Hills doesn't want to use the same formula as Too Faced, let's say, which is one of their competitors. This isn't actually real, this is just an example, but essentially they would be putting out identical products. The formulation is the same, and let's say Too Faced is charging $15 less for their eyeshadow palette compared to Anastasia, then people will just buy the Too Faced one if it's exactly the same as the Anastasia one. Again, not actually how they operate. It has become common knowledge that Morphe, the brand, basically bought these pre-made palettes. I'll just put up some pictures on screen. They basically use these pre-made palettes and just sometimes rearranged the shades, sometimes they didn't, and just stamped Morphe on top and called it their palette. It's not illegal to do that if they're, buying from these manufacturers, that's the deal that they have with these makeup companies. The problem that I have, and I've been seeing more and more, maybe I've just been getting more and more targeted ads, but I've just been seeing more and more new companies pop up and they're all selling the same palette. To me, it's sort of like oversaturation, where I might have been interested when I saw the first palette, but when I saw the second and third and fourth and fifth, I'm just like, they're all exactly the same. And like another thing that's weird is a lot of these companies don't list their ingredients. And for people who have sensitivities to certain ingredients, or let's say they're vegan and they want to make sure that there's no animal byproducts, a lot of that information isn't even displayed with these companies. And it might just be because they don't have that information because the manufacturer didn't supply it. But it makes at least in my opinion, it makes the company seem a lot less legit and a lot less trustworthy. I'm just going to move over here so I can put up some pictures, but let's talk about specific examples. So I have like a whole list here on my phone, which you can't even see. I will be linking all of these in the description box, assuming that their websites are still live, just so you can take a look at these products for yourself. First example is from Ching Beauty Shop. They're the ones that they didn't really break the internet, but they're the ones that made news or made headlines when they released, it was something like a 96 pan eyeshadow palette. It looked really pretty, but it's just like, why do you need almost 100 eyeshadow shades in one palette? Like it's a lot. It's probably huge. Okay, what really sparked this whole video was these 15 pan eyeshadow palettes that sort of reminded me of the 9 pan ColourPop eyeshadow palettes, like the monochromatic ones. Especially, they have a purple one that looks very similar to the, it's either the It's My Pleasure or Lilac You A Lot. One of those. The green one actually looks kind of similar to the Just My Luck palette. I saw the identical palette on Ching Beauty as well as Georgie's brushes. They're identical in their layout. They have like these little like embossed stamps almost within each eyeshadow shade, which is something I picked up on right away. It's kind of like a little like swirly motif thing. And like all of these eyeshadow palettes have that. Like I think if they didn't have that stamp, and maybe if the shades were rearranged in a different order, then I would have been like, okay, that's really similar, but I might not have picked up on it right away. But I've been seeing all of these palettes from a bunch of different companies looking identical. Every time I see one, I'm like, oh my God, not another one. Like seriously, like go away. Like I don't want to see it. I think the first brand actually that I saw it from was Netty Bird, and they actually reached out to me. They were giving me like a whatever percent, like a 20% discount off of their merchandise. And I'm just like I don't want to feel pressured to buy something from a brand, and I'll get into that in another video. When they reached out to me, I hadn't heard of the brand before, so I looked at their website and I was like, oh, those palettes are cute. They kind of remind me of those ColourPop ones. And like those are interesting little like embossing flower things. And then like maybe 2 days later, I got on the Explore page on Instagram, I saw the exact same palettes, just different palette artwork on the outside, but the exact same palettes on the inside from a brand called Ojibwe Cosmetics. And I was like, really? And also, when I had looked up Netty Bird, there was maybe one review on them, which is fine. They could be a smaller company. Georgie's brushes, I think, had a bit more, if I remember correctly, I think they have a bit more social media presence. But regardless, it's the exact same palettes. When I was looking at Ching Beauty, I think when I heard about the 96 pan eyeshadow palette, I was like, oh my God, they have the same fucking palettes. There's this company, MsMakeupPoem.com, and they specifically advertise themselves as a private label company. So they show you a bunch, like if you look under eyeshadows, they show you a bunch of different palette options, and it just says private label on the front. You can put your logo there. And I think that's what alerted, this and another thing is what alerted me to the fact that the other companies that I mentioned are private label. And that's the fact that it's the same palettes, like it's obviously made by the same people and it says private label on the front. So that was kind of a dead giveaway. And then also the product photo that they have was a product photo that I saw from Alibaba, I think. Yeah, there's this picture from imall.com. Oh, okay, yeah, which is somehow connected to Alibaba, so that's what also alerted me. And the product photo there is the same as on the private label site. Now, of course, that picture could have come from anywhere, who knows? But it's just interesting that it shows up there. Oh yeah, I saw this picture. I don't know where it was originally from. It showed up on Pikuki.com, which I think is one of these sites that will like show social media posts from other platforms. Anyways, the caption is high pigment private label 18 color eyeshadow palette. And then the hashtags are like private label cosmetics, private label eyeshadow, wholesale eyeshadow. More and more proof that these types of palettes are wholesale private label eyeshadow palettes. And then there's more from, like, there's sellers on Amazon that are carrying it. Yeah, here we go. There's one on Alibaba. This one actually has ingredients listed on the back, but again, and this isn't anything against these sellers, but I'm gonna assume that all of these palettes are being made in the same place and it's not like it's one design that other people are copying. Let's just assume that they're all coming from the same place. Because there's so many people in the middle, from the manufacturer to the end consumer, there's so many people in between there. Information like that can get lost or it can be changed, and there's no real way of knowing. Like, at least if I was a consumer looking to buy this eyeshadow palette, there's no way for me to know that for sure these ingredients are in this palette and what they say is in this palette is what you're actually getting, because things could be tampered with. Also, people could hide information. I feel very uncomfortable, especially because these are smaller companies. So I feel like, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same with Morphe palettes in a way, because you don't know where they're actually getting them. But I feel like now I trust the quality of their eyeshadow palettes more than before, because it seems like they have their own original formula and they're more in charge of formulation, especially their influencer collabs. Like, I know with Jaclyn Hill, she's very involved with the formula. So I know that like what's actually printed on there is what you're actually getting. But when so many other people, so many like middlemen, if you will, are in the way, it's hard to verify that information, because I feel like there aren't any regulatory bodies that are actually like inspecting these palettes. Could be wrong, so if I am, please correct me below. There's also this French company, and they also have the same palettes, and it's funny, like each one calls their palette a different name, but they're identical. Yeah, so I basically talked about these 4 stupid palettes ad nauseum. Let's move on. An ad that I kept getting from Ojibwe Cosmetics, because kind of like once I clicked on, I think the palettes that all look the same, then Instagram thought that I was interested in this brand because I kept going back to them. They came out with a palette around Pride called Love is Love. Looks something like this. Cute. Pigmentation actually looks amazing if we can believe the swatches. Also, another thing I noticed is a lot of these companies are selling these palettes for like ridiculous prices, especially knowing that they're private label. So let's say on Alibaba, you can buy this palette for $5. I assume that's US, could be Canadian. Regardless, it's very cheap. Georgie's Brushes is selling this palette for, originally it was $59.25 Canadian, now it's $46.08 Canadian, which is still way too much money for something that's private label. Like, it should be half that. If you're establishing yourself as a sort of more high-end brands, so you're charging upwards of $45, $50, then don't make your makeup look cheap. They're very cutesy and colorful, which isn't a bad thing, but their palettes are so recognizable in other places, and a lot of other brands have been doing the exact same palettes, and that just cheapens them. And then when I see that they're charging about $50 for these palettes, it's like there's a disconnect here. Like, either you're fast fashion or you're designer. You can't be both. I noticed when I was researching Ching Beauty, they've got the exact same palette with the exact same rainbow palette art. You're not even bothering to change the palette art. Like, how lazy can you get? And maybe these palettes, well, I guess there is some degree of customization because you can put your logo on there. It cheapens it. Like, that's all I can say. It just cheapens the whole experience. It just turns me off wanting to buy from them and support small businesses. That's another thing that bothers me, is a lot of these brands will be like,
oh, support us, we're a small business, we're like a 2-person team and we work really hard.
And I don't doubt that you work really hard and that you're a small business and you're kind people and we should support you, but like, if you're getting pre-made palettes, like, where is the thought being put into your art, your business, your baby? Like, where is the effort? If you're buying pre-made palettes, you just click a couple buttons, add it to your cart, and check out. I would want to support a business that they're mixing their pigments by hand and they're pressing them by hand and all the colors are custom formulated. There's a lot more love and care and effort that goes into that, rather than buying an AliExpress palette and putting your logo on it and saying that it's yours. I'm not completely against private labeling. I think it's a great way to start a cosmetics business, but you kind of have to figure out, if you are using private labeling, then A, you shouldn't have your price point so high, and B, like, maybe you are a fast fashion, like a ColourPop type, although I know that they do make their own formulas, but you kind of have to decide, like, are you a fast fashion ColourPop type of brand, which is totally fine and there's nothing wrong with that, but then be a bit more transparent about that and keep your prices low, and that'll entice people to shop from you, and do something to set yourself apart from all of the other private label companies that are also using identical palettes. So like, let's say Georgie's Cosmetics and Netty Bird, their websites look, I guess, more or less similar. They're selling very similar things. In the case of these 4 eyeshadow palettes, they're selling identical things. Like, do something that sets you apart. Show that your quality is better, even if it's just the same. Post more swatches, post more people wearing your products, do more influencer giveaways. I don't know. Figure it out. You're the business person. But just do something that makes you seem like a legit company. Maybe disguise the fact that you're using private labeling. Not like it's a bad thing. It just kind of has a negative connotation. So rearrange the colors in the palette so it looks a little different. Design the palette art yourself. Or if you're not artistic, then hire a graphic designer and work with them, or an artist or an illustrator. Work with them and have them come up with a beautiful design for your palette that's so cohesive and it matches the shades that are in your palette, and it's just like an overall really exciting and enticing experience and brings more people to your brand, because packaging is the first sort of touch point that people see when they're looking at your products. They look at the packaging often if it's on shelves because, it's wrapped. So that's the first thing they see. They might not see the actual product. Your product might be amazing, but if your packaging is really shitty, then fewer people are likely to buy your product. If you're going to go the private labeling route, then at least be a bit more subtle about it. Because, okay, the quality of these eyeshadows might be amazing, but we don't know that. And swatches, on Instagram are often retouched. They, when they're swatching, they go over the colors a million times, so the intensity is really brought up. Do something to make people trust you. Show yourself on social media, show live swatches unfiltered, just so people can actually see the real quality of the eyeshadows. Be transparent about ingredients, because I know for me that's really important. I'm sure it is for a lot of other people. Just look at what kind of like big brands, mainstream brands are doing and follow them. Just really set yourself apart from your competition, because right now all of these brands look the same. Let's talk about Glamier, which is a brand that I think has been getting a lot of traction recently. See, they have the like Love is Love palette as well. Looks identical to all the other ones. Also, didn't even bother to change the palette art. Nice. So let's take a look at what else they have on here. They have these 35 pan palettes that look exactly like Morphe palettes. I'm sure, well, I don't want to. They look like they were bought from the same manufacturer. They have a bunch of pigments and like water activated liners and stuff. Very cool. Here we go, the Nude Lust 18 color eyeshadow and glitter palette. So I'm just going to put up on screen what that palette looks like, and then I'm going to put up this palette from Huda Beauty and tell me if you see any similarities. Oh, and then there's this one, the Warm Sunset 35 color eyeshadow and glitter palette. So I'm going to put that one up on screen. And now I'm going to put up this palette from Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. It's the Volume 2 palette of theirs. See any similarities? And now, there are a lot of copycat brands out there. The one that is most notable to me anyways is Makeup Revolution. And they've kind of set themselves up as a dupe brand, which I don't think is really a bad thing. I know a lot of brands have issues with that. I guess ethically it is an issue when they're stealing the setup of the palettes. It's just very clearly, like visually just looking at it, it's very clearly a dupe. It's okay, I'm going to put that in quotations, it's okay if you want to be a dupe brand, but again, you're kind of devaluing yourself and you're kind of cheapening the quality of your makeup because you're basically saying, hey, we make palettes that are really similar to the Huda palette, you should buy ours, but like we didn't get the exact formulation right and we're going to charge less money, so use it at your own risk, but buy ours because we're cheaper. You know that meme, like when you copy someone's homework but you change the answers slightly? That's kind of what this feels like. It just feels like, you know, Huda Beauty put in the effort to design, was it the New Nudes palette or whichever one it was? Huda Beauty and, you know, Huda herself puts in a lot of time and effort to design her palettes. And then when someone basically rips off the format of the palette, you don't know how the quality compares. Sure, if you're maybe someone who likes to do a lot of dupes and comparisons, that might be enticing to you. Or if you really don't care about quality and you just want cheap makeup that's colorful, that might be enticing to you. But if you're looking for quality makeup, you're going to go to the original, not the copycat. So why not invest the time and money, go to a lab, make your own makeup, and like use your creativity and come up with something better? Like, isn't that more enticing? No, you'd rather just basically steal someone else's concept and stick your name on it and call it yours? Going back to the Rainbow Love is Love palette. So there's a brand, Ojibwe Cosmetics. They're a Canadian Indigenous owned makeup company. And I suspect I've wanted to support them for a while because, as I mentioned in a few other videos of mine, I really want to support BIPOC owned businesses. And there aren't a ton of Indigenous owned Canadian makeup companies. There's like, I think 2, maybe 3 that I can think of offhand. So when I heard about Ojibwe, I was really intrigued. And then I looked at their products and I'm like, some of these look like they're private label. And again, not a bad thing. But when I saw this stupid rainbow palette, I'm like, yeah, I really want to support them, but it's just, I don't want that stupid palette. So like if they're going to be using the same manufacturer, literally the same packaging as all these other companies, I don't know if I really want to support this brand at all, which makes me feel really sad because I do want to support Indigenous owned makeup companies. It cheapens the whole experience and it doesn't feel like you're actually supporting them, you're supporting the AliExpress store where they bought it. One last example that I want to discuss, and that is Lick & Lash Beauty. They're a UK-based beauty company. They actually do a pretty good job at marketing themselves as more than just a private label company. Like their social media presence seems like they're really trying to be like, yeah, this is our company, but they fell into the trap of that stupid fucking rainbow palette with the exact same packaging, exact same format. Everything is exactly the same. Oh yeah, and they also have a Jaclyn Hill Morphe looking palette. And it's a shame because some of their other palettes look really, really pretty. Like the Playful palette looks absolutely gorgeous. The Playful palette looks different than their other palettes. Their other palettes are all like circular pans and that one is square pans. So I don't know if they went somewhere else to get that done or if they're starting to manufacture their own palettes and maybe they're trying to get rid of their old stock. I'm just speculating here, but it's just interesting to see. Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. The Flamingo Beach palette is also a square pan. And I know there are other companies that do square pan palettes. It's not like, a revolutionary thing. It's just, it's interesting that all the other ones kind of have that like old school Morphe 35 pan palette look. And then these ones look a bit sleeker. They look a bit more premium. They're actually a little bit more expensive, which is interesting. And I've actually heard very good things about those two palettes. I haven't heard anything about their other palettes, which is also interesting. Oh yes, what's really interesting is they have a whole category called Morphe dupe palettes. Anyways, I just found it kind of interesting. Overall, in conclusion, I'm really not trying to bash these companies. If anything, I just want to help them. I don't want to say business strategies because I'm really not qualified to talk about that, but just conduct themselves better so that consumers are more likely to want to buy from them. It honestly just makes me sad a little bit when I see these companies resorting to, it's like, okay, I want to start my own makeup company. Great. Where does one make up?
Oh, there are a bunch of $5 palettes from AliExpress. I'll just buy 100 of those and then ask them if they can just put my logo on top, and I'll call it my palette.
Yeah, you can do that and you can keep your costs low that way, but what is that saying about the quality of your makeup and the quality of your formulas and the integrity behind your brand, the creativity? There isn't that. It's just you are a factory. You're not even a factory. You're basically just ordering stock for the customer. That's essentially all you're doing, and you're just making money for these wholesalers, which is fine. I buy from AliExpress all the time, but there are 10 million makeup companies cropping up. Every single day there's a new makeup company. It's just frustrating and annoying, really, to see all of these companies popping up, and they're so unoriginal looking. And again, I'll have more tips. I'm planning to do a whole video on this topic, just things that I see small businesses, particularly makeup businesses, doing. They're all really ordering these exact same palettes from AliExpress, and it's exhausting. Any company that sells that fucking rainbow palette or those 4 fucking ColourPop type palettes, it's an immediate turn off for me. I really want to see small businesses thrive. I've seen so many small businesses, small makeup companies grow so quickly because they have integrity and creativity and love and thought put into their palettes and put into their eyeshadows and whatever it is that they're selling. They think about every single aspect of the production and the formulation and all of that. And it's very evident in the way that they market the products as well, because they have such pride in what they made. And so they're always swatching and they're featuring people who are wearing their palettes. They're not just trying to sell their palettes. They're doing something that they love and they're sharing that with the world. And people see that and they see that passion and they're drawn to it, and they're more likely to buy from those companies rather than a bunch of fake ass looking companies that are selling AliExpress palettes. And it's very, very evident, at least to me, it's very, very evident when I see the way that they market those palettes, especially the way that they reach out. I've been DM'd by a few companies. One of the companies that I mentioned and a few other companies, it's very, very evident that all they want to do is make money, and they really don't care so much about the quality of their products. It's just,
I want to make money. How can I get people to buy my palettes? Here's a 20% off discount code for you. Here, we'll give you a discount code for your followers. Just buy our fake-ass palettes.
That's sort of my thought process, my association. I'm not saying these brands actually do that. So really no shade to them. It's just that's the way that they're coming across. When they buy these AliExpress palettes, that's kind of the connotation that the connotation and the implication that it sort of gives off. And it's just very, very unappealing as a consumer. I just don't want anything to do with those companies. I'm not saying you guys shouldn't buy from them. Obviously it's your money and do whatever you want. I'm just saying, for me, it cheapens the quality of their company. Even if the quality of the makeup is absolutely exceptional, it just makes me not want to buy from them. Because also, let's say I want to buy 10 different palettes from them because I really like all of their stock. Who knows that they're getting all of those palettes from the same manufacturers. So you might love the formulation and the blendability of eyeshadows in one palette, and then find that from the same brand, the eyeshadows are a completely different formula, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Because they might not be using the same lab or the same factory to make their eyeshadows. Whereas a brand that makes everything from scratch, obviously you can guarantee that it's the same formula because it's the same people making them. So it's just like quality, consistency, care, all of that. It's just questionable, and there's no real way to guarantee it unless you actually are transparent about it as a brand owner. That's about everything I have to say. I feel like I kind of rambled a little bit, so I feel like here is a good place to stop. Also, I'm starting to lose my voice. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments section below your thoughts on this topic, what you think of the points that I discussed. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I really would love to have a conversation about this because I feel like people talked about it a lot with Morphe when the news about that came out. And then I haven't seen anyone talking about these palettes, and I feel like this is kind of like Morphe 2.0, although Morphe actually now has Morphe 2, so I guess that would be Morphe 2.0. It's just something that's been on my mind for a while. It's been bothering me for a while, and I just had to let it off my chest. Again, no shade or disrespect to these companies. I really just want to see small makeup companies succeed and thrive. These issues that I've identified just seem like, at least to me as a consumer, it's something that drives me away from supporting their business, and something that I might advise these companies to consider not doing, or at least be a bit more subtle about it. I just want to see more originality. Like, you can be so creative with cosmetics, even though the industry is so saturated, there is a lot of room to be very creative, and I just love to see more originality from brands. It's just been really getting on my nerves every time I see a picture or a video on the Instagram Explore page and it's that fucking rainbow palette or those stupid ColourPop looking palettes. It just grinds my gears, so I made a video about it. If you enjoy the type of videos that I do here on my channel, whether it's makeup tutorials and reviews or whether it's these talking type of videos, because I've got a lot more planned, then I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, and that way you'll get updated every time I post a new video. If you like the type of looks that I do on this channel, I post more of them on my other social media accounts, so I would love it if you could give me a follow. I've got links in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time.